time changes the first day of summer.
What?
Well, it's 8 o'clock and it's still light.
A lot of good the extra daylight does us. Now, we've still got a 3-hour drive back. We're not going to be home until after midnight.
Well, if it really bugged you, Johnny, you wouldn't do it.
You think I want to blow Sunday on a scene like this? You know, I figure we're either going to have to move Mother out here or move the grave into Pittsburgh.
She can't make a trip like this.
Oh, darn it, she can't. Is there any of that candy left?
No.
Look at this thing. We still remember. I don't. You know, I don't even remember what the man looks like.
Johnny, it takes you 5 minutes.
Yeah, 5 minutes to put the wreath on the grave and 6 hours to drive back and forth. Mother wants to remember, so we trot 200 miles into the country and she stays at home.
Well, we're here, John, all right?
Test. Back on. Oh. Ladies and gentlemen, we're coming back on the air after an interruption due to technical problem.
There's nothing wrong with the radio. Must have been the station.
Which row is it in?
Well, there's no one around.
You'd gotten up earlier.
Oh, look, I already lost an hour's sleep with the time change.
I think you complain just to hear yourself talk. There it is.
I wonder what happened to the one from last year. Each year we spend good money on these things. We come out here and the one from last year's gone.
Well, the flowers die. The caretaker or somebody takes them away.
And we'll keep it polished, clean this up, sell it next year. Wonder how many times we bought the same one. Hey, come on, Bob. Church. Hey, I mean, pray it's for church, huh? Come on.
I haven't seen you in church lately.
Well, not much sense in my going to church. Do you remember one time when we were small, we were out here? It was from right over there. I jumped out at you from behind the tree, and Grandpa got all excited. He shook his fist at me, and he said, "Boy, you'll be damned to hell." Remember that? Right over there. You should really be scared.
Johnny,
You're still afraid.
stop it now. I mean it.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
Stop it. You're ignorant.
They're coming for you, Barbara.
Stop it. You're acting like a child.
They're coming for you. Look, there comes one of them now.
She'll hear you.
Here he comes now. I'm getting out.
Johnny. Oh, no. No. Johnny. Help me.
direct asteroids to hit our moon, changing its orbit. Now, this is probably a really bad idea, because you just don't know what's going to happen. Now, the moon is up there in its orbit for a specific celestial reason of some sort or another, and if we should change that, or by mistake hedge it our way, or hedge it out into deep space, and then all of a sudden our tides go away, I mean, there's just no end to things that could happen. Most of them absolutely negative. I wouldn't think that's a real good idea. West of the Rockies, you're on the air. Hello.
Hi, it's Darlene.
Hello, Darlene.
Hi. Is this Art?
Good guess.
Oh, well, I couldn't tell because I had the radio on and I just turned it down.
Good girl.
Yeah. I'd like to talk about the mirrors.
Yes.
Well, I'm 53, and when I was maybe 8 years old, I had this really cool dresser where I could sit in front of it and see infinity if I pulled the two side mirrors together.
Yes.
So that you can see zillions of yourself.
Yes.
I somehow stepped into that mirror. And
here we go.
yeah, it was really strange because...
Well, you stepped into the mirror. Do you recall the sensations or the effect, or I mean...
I remember being inside looking out and...
really?
Yeah, and I remember that if I crossed into these different images of the mirror, it was like different dimensions.
Yes.
But I had to keep where I could see myself.
Yes, I was going to say, you know, the big worry for me, if I were able to do that, would be that I'd get lost.
Well, it happened.
Get lost?
Because
Oh,
my
really?
my mother knocked on my bedroom door, and it scared the bejesus out of me, because I was inside the mirror.
Maybe that's the only reason you're here right now.
Well, half of me was for many years, but I had an alchemical regression to retrieve that girl that I left, the living daylights, I call her, in the mirror. Because when my mom knocked on my door, I, of course, right away answered her, but I got out, and the other part of me didn't.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, yes, I do. I just said, my fear would be that I'd get, you know, once you're two or three images deep, if you could really travel within,
exactly,
you would never know what you were looking back at. And unless you were at that first same image looking at yourself, you couldn't step back through. You'd be stuck forever. And oh my.
Well, it was really strange because I started having, in this life, I started having, I started finding shiny things everywhere all of a sudden. And psychic, so I'm used to dealing with paranormal. was out of the ordinary. And this is what led me to the alchemical regression, is that these shiny things kept appearing, and I could not...
You mean you had somebody give you drugs?
No. It was more like, okay, I've been working this lifetime on spiritual attainment or
Listen,
progression.
we're about out of time.
Okay.
So what kind of regression was it?
Well, it was more like hypnosis.
Okay. Well, that's, yes, you can be regressed hypnotically. Listen, I'm sorry, we've got to go. Evelyn Paglini, when we're back, and that'll be very shortly. Stay right there.
And you would think that Abby has just had his right leg ripped off. He is out there crying the blues, just absolutely crying the blues. So I guess he really misses her. I was running around the condo trying to figure out who got wounded. I mean, it sounded like... unhappy, or something that might explain that's going on.
Distinct from the chemistry that happens in the summer.
Sailors did. We still use the starch.
Where? By country, all right? It actually rates by countries, ranked as the happiest country according to the people in the surveys. Number 1 is Venezuela. Nigeria. 4, Iceland. Number 5, Netherlands. 6, the Philippines. 7, Australia. And ranked down at number 8, the United States, followed by, and I won't read the numbers, Turkey, Switzerland. The United Kingdom is number 11, Belgium, Sweden, Denmark, Canada, Dominican Republic, Mexico, Austria, Chile, Norway, Argentina, Ghana, China, Japan, India, France. Way down the list is France at 26. Brazil. My God, it goes on and on. So if you want to see this for yourself, don't... for it. Go look it up. It's on nationmaster.com. Nationmaster.com. So, again, here in the Philippines, I wouldn't kid you, there is abject poverty, and I mean abject poverty. And it is the 6th happiest nation in the world. So this tells us something. I'm not sure what it's telling us. It's certainly telling us that money or things are not the key to happiness, right? So we'd have to think about this a little bit. Go get the list for yourself and look it over. What is it that creates happiness in a people? Clearly not. It's not money I was in radio because I love radio, and then magically, I guess I got good at it, and the money came. But money was never the reason that I began my career, ever in my career. So what I found out is that if you give somebody money, and I've done that on a number of occasions, I've just given money to somebody, even close family members, that kind of thing, it comes back and bites you right in the ass. I'm serious. Inevitably, they end up hating you. The more good you do for them, the more hated you are. Now, you can take that from a personal level, and you can take it right up to the national level. The United States gives away in buckets, and what do we get for it? We're hated.
Well, that being said, you're absolutely correct. And it's interesting that you mentioned that we are number 8 on the list. One of my favorite numbers. And it's nice to know that Iceland is up there. It's nice to know that many other countries are up there.
I mean, look at Nigeria. How rich is that country? Venezuela has oil, but the people are poor. And as I mentioned here, the Philippines is number 6. There's abject poverty here, so there's no guarantee of. Money is obviously not a guarantee of happiness. What is it?
Some of us have been very fortunate to travel extensively in Mexico. And I can't tell you how happy everybody is down in Mexico when you get out away from the big touristy areas of Mexico. I am surfing on a body tour, a boogie tour, and obviously that is the primary reason I go to Mexico.
On this list, Mexico is number 17 between Republic and Austria.
Okay, well, I don't know who's taking the survey and what kind of how they're calculating their data, but I can tell you firsthand that the people in the country in Mexico are much more happy than the people who are in Mexico. And it's the same way here in the United States.
But what is profoundly going on in our country that people are without going to secure a high-powered rifle and taking out as many others as they could manage to take out. There's been a profound change, a real serious, basic change. And this is something we all should be considering. And again, go back to what Father Malachi Martin said. If you have an opportunity to listen to any of those programs, he said, Art, you can be walking down the street in New York City, and you can pass people on the street, and you can know that they are perfectly possessed. Now, I'm not a religious nut. I'm far from it. I'm probably pretty close to agnostic. I am agnostic, really. If by meaning that I really don't know whether there is a God, I pray and I hope and I think there is a God, but I don't know it. That's why I've always said I'd go back to the time of Jesus if I could travel in time. I don't absolutely know it. I'm the kind of guy who's got to be able to put my hand on something before I can believe it. So I guess, in a way, I'm agnostic. But I have enough of a... right word. I have enough of a belief that there probably is a God that I you know what, even beyond that, even if I didn't think that there was a God, and I certainly do, even if I didn't think there was a God, I still would be well behaved in the sense of not committing some awful crime, not doing anything bad to anybody. Heck, I don't even step on ants. You know, a lot of people go out of the way to step on bugs. I don't even do that. So, I'm really struggling with what it is, whatever it is that makes people so happy. If is even the right word, maybe it's evil. Maybe evil is proliferating in a way that Father Malachi Martin suggested it was, and there are simply those perfectly possessed people out there. I don't know. I truly don't know. Tom, Seattle, Washington, your turn.
My guest, he gives sympathy to Dolly for her shots.
Dolly's probably reasonably happy. Dolly's with Aaron on the way to bed. It's Abby here who's going nuts. I thought I heard what was going on out there, and I thought a right leg got ripped off or something.
Yeah, I heard that. I wanted to talk to you about last Sunday. I was holding on Wild Card Line 2 when time ran out, and I wanted to talk to Sean Carroll about the trip I had to see the ridicule. I had been stuck 4 times. I got 30 touches by these 5-foot high gray aliens to my home. And they're nuts about my home built jet that I'm building and all the model airplanes in my shop.
You're building a home-built jet?
Yeah, I'm doing the 3/4 size F-16, and I've got a Learjet engine in it.
God. Are you actually going to fly this thing?
Well, yeah, it'll be the 3rd airplane I built like that.
Really?
Yeah, I'm elected to do that. I can do it.
Are you going to fly in it?
Yeah, what happens is you go down the runway at 5 miles an hour first to see if the brakes and the steering work, and you increasingly go down the runway till you can lift it off the ground an inch, and then you come off the power arm and put it down. And you're counting runway lights while you're doing that, so you know how long it takes to stop. So you do this about 25, 30 times, and then you open it up to see if it's going to kill you. And you carefully check this out, and then you go around the pattern one time.
Okay, we've got a bad phone connection here. So you've been abducted any number of times, huh?
4.
4 times.
Yeah,
And
I wanted
do you recall the details of your abduction?
Yes, I've written a book, and I've got a CD that I've made. But I wanted to talk to Sean Carroll and ask him about my trip to Zeta Reticuli and see if he could give some credence to what I saw.
Okay, well, obviously he's not here, my friend, so we can't do that. I'm going to cut that short because we have a very, very bad line. Abducted 4 times, so I'm not sure that Sean Carroll would have been the appropriate person for that. He, of course, was a theoretical physicist and commenting on those kinds of matters, and frankly, very much doubtful when it comes to things extraterrestrial and that sort of thing. And, you get a scientist like that on the air, and there's really no point in pushing them on these subjects because you're not going to get that far with them. At the very best, they're going to say, well, this is something that could be. It's something that I'd be willing to look into if there was hard evidence. But that's not as far as any real legit scientist is going to go. What I would like to see one day is somebody, perhaps not Sean Carroll, he might not be the appropriate person, but some mainstream scientist really take a moment, more than a moment, and investigate all of these reports and really take about a year to delve into ecology in general and then comment on it to see all the evidence that we do have, and then comment for us on it. Of course, they won't do that. They have careers and families that they have to protect, so in a lot of ways it's very understandable. On the international line, from Toronto, Canada, Marty, it's your turn.
Hi, Art. Thank you for taking my call.
Sure.
You had asked the difference between what was making the planet more evil, or the way I see it is more negative. I was listening to your show last year, and I had an epiphany overnight, and I woke up the next day, and I saw everything as positive positive and negative energy, meaning words, numbers, everything. When two people argue, the positive and negative energy that transfers. And I think the question that you had asked was, why is the influx of evil taking over the planet? And the only explanation is positive and negative, simplistic way. When you see it as the cycle that we're coming back onto, I see it like a piston on a motor car that comes back to top dead center. As the piston comes and hits the top of the cycle, there's another explosion. It runs through the entire cycle again. And the easiest way I can explain it is through positive and negative energy. The word of good is God. The word of devil is evil. When you look at it in simplistic positive and negative terms, it feels like there's a greater influx of negative energy pressing galactically somehow on the planet.
Well, I do wonder at some of God's representatives, many, believe it or not, don't believe in hell. They don't believe in real evil, which really surprises me. In other words, how can you believe so strongly and have such great faith that there is a God without also knowing there is an opposite, there is an evil force, whatever you want to call it, the devil or anything you want to call it, that there is that evil force and that it seems to be on the increase here on Earth right now. You agree with that?
Oh, I agree that there's definitely I felt it myself where you try and be positive in a positive mode where you're going through maybe some difficulty in your life, and you try and think positive, and the negative seems to creep back in. And because we're connected, grounded, so to speak, right through our feet, right through the earth, it's almost like whatever happens to the earth and the planet and the core comes right up through into us. And we just react based on the energy that's flowing through the earth.
I'm also willing to buy that. We're absolutely part of it. We cannot go into space for long periods of time without beginning to have a deterioration in many of our bodily functions and our muscles and all the rest of it. So we are connected to the Earth. I'm not sure that I go so far as Gaia, that it's a living planet. It may be, but certainly we're connected to it in a very big way. If something starts to go wrong with Earth, something starts to go wrong with us.
Yeah, there's definitely that connection that I don't think we can get away from. It's just part of our being.
Well, considering, Marty, thank you very much for the call. Of course there's an evil. Of course there is an opposite of good, which is evil. The opposite of God, which is, for lack of a better word, Lucifer and I've always wondered about that, how so many men of good faith can believe in one without believing in the other. That's always been a sort of a puzzle to me. West of the Rockies, Bruce from Ontario, you're on.
Hi, Art. How you doing? How's the smoking going?
I'm doing very well. For example, during doing this program, I have managed to limit myself to 4 cigarettes, 1 per hour, during the show. Now, I smoke, and I'm telling you, buddy, I was doing a pack show before.
Yeah, that's a lot. I'm just calling about the opiate you had on about 4 years ago. Do you remember?
Actually, I had several.
Yeah, I'm just convinced that that one you had on was the Word of God. Yeah?
I don't know. They had, listen, I'm way short on time here. It wasn't the Word of God. I don't know. It was the Word of Moby Dick. It was the Word of that particular man. And they felt that some very difficult times were about to be visited on us. We had to do translations to do that show. It was very compelling, very interesting. If you get a chance, take a listen. I'm Mark Bell. The airwaves are yours, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Art Bell. Guadalajara, Mexico. You're on the air. I think you're on the air. Jose? Maybe you're not on the air. Let's try this. And then this. Are you there, Jose? No, I guess he's not. That was strange. It's kind of like he was on the air all by himself. So I'm not sure what happened there. Let's instead go to Joseph in Indiana. You're on.
Hey, hello there, Art. Been a long time I've been listening to you. You probably gave me some of the happiest moments of my life when I drive my truck.
Good. It certainly whiles away the miles, doesn't it?
Yeah, it sure does. I remember the night you glued your lips together. Oh my goodness. About fell out the window.
Don't remind me.
I got a piece outside of Cebu City, about 40 miles out from the water. And I went there for I live in Indiana, but I had to go there for a business trip. And while I was there, the typhoon come rolling through. This was in October. So I stayed at my house. 4 or 5 days of nothing but rain. I had brought with me 4 telescopes. And because with no street lights there, it's beautiful. No.
Well, it is, but there's an awful lot of humidity here. That's the other factor that somewhat limits the night sky. The humidity here is always in the 90s, very close to 100%.
Right. Well, you'll have to come down and check out the island there. It's a lot better. The humidity isn't as bad down there once you get away from the other side of the island there.
I see.
And but I was going to tell you about my... so I'm stuck there at the house in the rain and the typhoon. You know how that is. And about 1:30 in the morning, everything was quiet, so I jumped out of bed and I said, I'm going to look outside, see if I
So it actually virtually landed on it.
Yeah, I'd say maybe it was 50, 100 foot off the...
And how long ago was this?
October this year.
Was it all take off, or was there some counter meal?
No other encounter. They played out there for about 20 minutes. The 3 little ones, they floated, come into one, and then they split off. energy in the universe. And what it is, it's not dark matter, it's antimatter. And the scientists say that when matter comes in contact with antimatter, they annihilate it. Actually, when the Big Bang took place, it went out in both directions. It went out in antimatter and matter. And the two are tied together kind of like two loops of a string, like the infinity sign. And so out there in like, say, when one star comes closer to another, each star's mass is increased. It's kind of like, you remember the experiment in 1942 when they were getting to build the nuclear test. And so they had two bottom trains, and each one having part of the critical mass. When they came close to each other, the critical mass began to glow. And the scientists put one train off the track to keep from having nuclear explosion. Well, that's what's happening in other words, our Earth, the solar system, and our star and other stars, they all have matter that interposes with each other. And as it comes close, as a star comes close, or a large comet or anything like that comes close to our solar system, it begins to build the energy in our own solar system. That's why the Earth is. And the polarization is kind of like, the people, the human condition is going awry because people are becoming polarized, like that one guy said about Guyana, and that lady was just saying about the purgatory. Yes. That all ties in.
All right, well, you know what? It kind of makes sense. That anything that would affect our Earth, anything that would affect our solar system, would affect us. I do think that we are absolutely tied to, I don't want to get too foo-foo on you, but I think we're tied to Earth. I think we're tied to Mother Earth, and as Mother Earth changes, so do we. So the change in the human condition that we've been discussing tonight could well be tied to some event that we have yet. It could be, as he said, polarization. It could be virtually anything. But the fact that the change is underway, I think, is beyond dispute. At least in my mind, it's beyond dispute. They still represent head shakers, and I don't have the full answer. Perhaps that man did, or one of you does. I don't know. All I know is we really are changing. West of the Rockies, all the way to Homer, Alaska.
Yes, sir. I'd like to start the conversation with saying, I want to tell you something I know about what I'm saying. Okay. And I know that you can know God. And this is basically how it's done. When you hold yourself to Christ's standards, and you try to keep this law, the law acts like a plow. It also acts like one of the labor pains. And after a few times of being tried through this, he will reveal himself into you. This is called the beatific vision. You can look it up in the dictionary. I went through this vision. I know my Lord and Savior. I know he's no liar. That's what you have to know.
Okay, well, I'm envious of you that you know this. I wish I did.
And you can. It's available. It says whosoever will. So it's a matter of your will.
Okay.
And it's, just in doing it, if you follow what he says to, you hold yourself to his standards. You don't add nothing to it or take nothing from it. That's when
I don't think we're really able to keep up with his standards. He was the one that was perfect, right? We can model ourselves after him, and we can try and do our very best. We are not perfect. Somebody said we're all sinners. Those of us walking the earth right now, I think that's accurate. From Manila to the Philippines, I'm Marcel. Indeed, here I am. It's your night. Open lines. Anything you want to talk about is absolutely fair game. How you doing? It's feels like one of those nights. We'll be right back. essentially vacant land out there. That the human race is concentrated into the larger cities, and there's still a lot of empty land on the Earth. But what the actual supportable level of population on the Earth is an entirely different question, and how the Earth changes are affecting those who walk upon its surface is yet another question. All right, back to the lines we go, and let's try again on the international line for Jose in Guadalajara, Mexico. Are you there, Jose?
Finally, Jose is here.
Okay.
Hello, Art. I just love your show. I listen often via the computer, and I wanted to comment on the apparent growth in violence and evil and the dastardly deeds that human beings do to each other.
Yes.
At the risk of sounding Bible thumping-ish, if you'll excuse that expression, not only does the Bible talk about in Daniel and in Revelation that during the end of the age, a release of evil will be set upon the world as has never been seen before.
I think we could say that's underway.
I see it as very clearly, and in Ephesians chapter 6, which talks about, and I don't think many people in the world actually believe this, but that we do not battle against flesh and blood, but against powers and principalities. I think people would understand that scripture and understand the period of time that we're in, we could defeat evil more than not. I truly believe that. And your show allows people to spend their mind and think. Art, you and George and this whole coast-to-coast thing is a wonderful worldwide blessing.
All right, thank you very much. And I do think, and again, I am not a thumper, as you know. I'm far from it. I think I'm a believer, but I'm not a thumper. And I'm not sure what that distinction is. I guess it's absolute faith, which I can't say that I have. I don't have absolute faith. I have faith. Can you say that? Can you have faith without having absolute faith? If you have doubts about something. For example, we've had people tonight calling and quoting the Bible. I don't necessarily believe that every word in the Bible is as it was delivered originally. I think fingerprints and footprints well, under that category, yeah, it fits right in. Mm-hmm.
Now, there was something else I was thinking of, your questions about the nature of religion and faith. I am not a particularly religious person, but I can.
Nor am I, and I didn't. By the way, I really want to make clear, I did not intend, nor do I want this to turn into some sort of religious show. We're not that. We touch on these topics because they're part of the paranormal, but I don't by any means want to turn this into a Bible quoting show. That's, in fact, I used to not allow Bible quotes, and I really don't want to now either.
Oh, well, don't worry. I wasn't going in that direction, but I was thinking of something that you would probably qualify as an expert on, and that is the nature of radio. And there are a lot of things that we take for granted about that, but we take things on faith. And I've never observed radio waves, but I know how to tune into them and make use of them in a practical, daily manner. And that's enough for me. And while I don't
just following orders is insufficient, to be sure, but I'm sure there was humanity scattered among it. Let's go to the first-time caller line, and Shane in Louisiana.
Hello, Art. How you doing tonight?
Great. To touch on your, I guess, your subject of matter, evil and how it's propagating right now. Well, evil, I guess there's just like a big outcry from what people are doing evil towards innocent people, especially like in the United States of America. You know, terrorists.
It's not limited, Shane, to the United States at all. And I think propagating is really a good word. Propagating is a good way to think of it. It is propagating, almost like a radio or a television wave.
Of course. And but I really want to talk about sound waves. And
Okay.
I want to pick your brain about sound technology and why our guests don't elaborate on
No, I don't know. What is it specifically you're asking about?
well, how sound can be used to levitate items.
Oh,
Have you
well,
heard
that's okay. That's surely just brand new in the news. I guess many of you have seen the story, but they've now managed to use sound to levitate not just small things, but even insects and even small fish. I think I read that story last week, and what I thought was particularly hilarious, if you can imagine levitated fish, using sound waves to levitate a fish. Sound, of course, has a force. It's like anything else in the world. Have you ever gone to a concert, for example, and have you felt the boom, boom, boom in your chest pushing against you? Well, that's a force. Sound, of course, is force, and sufficiently great amounts of it, concentrated properly, are enough to levitate a fish, for example, into the air. And the scientists, after levitating the fish, I guess, were humane enough to take a little needle and inject some water around the fish so that it could levitate in a little blurb of water. So if you can wrap your mind around it, there was a little fish levitating in midair with a little bubble of water all around that. Strange stuff. Let's go to Wapner line 3, and I think it's Karen in Iowa.
Yes. Hi, Art.
Hi.
I have known about this for quite a while, and I've just waited for people to come to a realization that it is happening, because the story is going to sound a little bit out there.
What are we talking about?
Okay, in 1982, there was stories of a red moon, an eclipse, happening on June 6th. Well, the newscaster out of Springfield, Missouri, I was in the Ozarks, had said that there was going to be an alignment of the planets and a strange child being born that night. Then I saw it on a tabloid. The woman I was living with was a Wiccan. So the Wiccans got on their phone. You know how they all call each other when events are happening. Well, she was told she needed to do her circle that night. And if you know what a circle is, you put it around the phone to protect you.
Yeah, I'm unaware of what it is.
Yes. So other people would know. And we weren't allowed to sleep, and we had to dress in garb and do a protection ritual. And she sat me down and she told me that the third of heaven, on the night that this child was being born, was going to open up. And that all these little demons were going to try and find bodies before the end times. And the seven seals were going to start happening on the earth. And she said, this is one of them, one of the plagues. As you know, 82 is when the news broke about AIDS. And she said, and it's going to get worse, and there's going to be earth changes, but this evil child was going to be what we know today as the Antichrist, born June 6, 1982.
So he walks on the earth today and has since June 6th, 1982.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
And
I think I've got it, and I hope you're wrong. I sincerely hope you're wrong, because if he now walks, why, we're all in danger. But if you look around at what's going on the earth, and actions by those who tread upon the earth, one might almost believe that could be true, huh? From Manila, the Philippine Islands, Philippine nation, I'm Art Bell. You know what? That's a really interesting proposition to consider. Radio waves, that caller wrote it up, radio waves and television waves propagate, don't they? We understand how they propagate. We understand about the electromagnetic spectrum. We have a very good understanding of how radio waves propagate, how UHF, VHF radio waves propagate to a line of sight distance, and even on occasions beyond. One means for conducting in other ways. We understand how shortwave signals propagate. But what we don't understand is how evil, or perhaps even good, also might propagate. Is it possible that the increase in evil that we see manifesting in the world, and it is a different kind of evil, I mean, God knows people have always killed each other. They've always had motive to kill each other, envy, hatred, theft. I don't know, you can go through a whole list, right, of things and reasons why people, jealousy, the reasons why people kill each other and do what we consider evil. But if you'll excuse the expression, in the old days, there used to be reasons, motives. All the ones that would put you in jail or have you executed for what you did, but reasons, motives. Things that others, though they certainly wouldn't agree with, would understand. Or you would have some idea why somebody committed such a terrible offense. But today we have these, and I still call them head shakers, these seemingly pure evil things that just, let me see if I can get a gun and go kill a bunch of people before I kill myself, or the police do it for me. Those kinds of things. It's almost like that kind of evil is propagating.
One of those, little things you see with your eyes, nothing big deal. She's like, well, I've seen them before when I was growing up. She was telling me about what they were, shadow people. So, she and my grandmother, her mother, have seen these before. And they don't, when you were younger, they don't shed light on things for you. So later on that day, my sister went downstairs in the basement, and she started screaming. She saw something looking at her. And there was a dark, shadowy figure. And right when we went downstairs, she saw us what she looked for. My aunt and my grandma lived upstairs, my dad's mom. My aunt started screaming. My grandma just died in my house, just dropped dead. And she had nothing wrong with her or anything. She didn't die of cancer or anything. She's about 74, 75. I mean, she was in great health. So ever since then, though, anybody that's died in my family, my mother and my sister and me, the day of their death, we see something. I mean, even if it's an animal, my cat just died 3 months ago, and Shadow, and my mom said the same thing. She saw it in the morning. I saw one when I was coming out of my house. So it's just, you see these things, and there's something out there. I don't know if it's good, I don't know if it's evil, but there's something to tell you that, you know, we're not alone out there.
I'm with you all the way, Tiff. I think that animals are harbingers of things like that. And for me, it's been birds. Absolutely no question about it. I guess different humans have different experiences. I wonder if it's real or if our brain is just attaching. No, you know what?
just lucky enough to do the ultrasound of my own little guy not too long ago, and yeah, it's a life.
Yeah, there's no way around it. It's a life.
Yeah.
You make all kinds of legal arguments and crap.
Sure,
It's
you
life.
can